This sports history flashback is brought to you by Roberts Insurance and Investments. Exceptional service for all of your insurance and investment needs. In 1992, Clay County High School renamed its basketball facility the Bobby Keith Gymnasium, honoring the head coach who led the Clay County Tiger program for 29 years. Keith captured 23 district titles, 18 13th region titles, and won the KHSAA High School State Basketball Championship in 1987. In 2011, the Kentucky Basketball Association recognized Bobby Keith as one of the 3 best all-time coaches to ever coach in the storied history of Kentucky high school basketball. Kentuckian Paul Hornung, a Heisman Trophy winner and NFL Hall of Famer who played for Green Bay Packers legendary coach Vince Lombardi, once said, "Bobby Keith has the best coach team I've ever seen at any level of play, high school, college, or pro." Bobby Ray Keith was born in the mountains of Clay County, Kentucky on November 27, 1940. He was raised in a small home off an old dirt road at the edge of the county by his father, William Tolman Keith, and his mother, Mary E. Robinson Keith, along with 2 other sisters, Josephine and Wanda. As a young child, Bobby was expected to take on numerous family responsibilities.
From the time that I was a small boy, I had chores. I had to go get the cow at 5 o'clock in the morning before I went to school and bring her to the barn to make sure that my sister got her milked, get her back to the pasture. Things like that. It was just a country life on a dirt road. It was a simple life, but it was a great life. I feel unfortunate about some of the people that grow up today that miss the simplicity and the honesty and the goodness that I was fortunate enough to experience when I was growing up.
Bobby grew up in an area of Clay County where, after the chores were finished, the neighborhood boys gathered and played basketball almost every night until the sun went down. And it seemed everyone in the county supported and followed the local high school team. Bobby recalls the exact year he fell in love with the black and gold of Clay County basketball.
In 1953, Clay County went through an undefeated season. They had the fellow Ray Mills, who went on to the University of Kentucky and was voted the #1 player in the state of Kentucky. And I can remember everything about that team. I kept a scrapbook on them. And I think right there is when I decided if I ever wanted to do one thing, I wanted to make certain that someday I did play for Clay County High School.
Of course, Bobby did play for Clay County under Hall of Fame coach J.W. Spider Thurman. In 1957 and 1958, Keith's junior and senior seasons, the Tigers won back-to-back 13th region titles and advanced to the Sweet 16 state tournament, giving Bobby his first taste of Kentucky's edition of the greatest show on earth. After high school, Bobby enrolled at Lindsey Wilson Junior College in Columbia, Kentucky to play basketball for Dr. Doug Hines. Bobby enjoyed a successful 2-year career at Lindsey Wilson as the Blue Raiders finished 5th in the National Junior College Tournament in 1959, then earned a 4th place finish at the National Junior College Tournament in 1960. Bobby moved on to star for Coach Herman Bush at Union College in Barberville for 2 years and was honored there as the first athlete in Union College history to win the President's Award as class valedictorian. Keith immediately pursued his dream of becoming a high school basketball coach after graduating from Union College in 1962. He leaned heavily on the knowledge he gained from his previous coaches and combined those lessons learned to form his own unique coaching philosophy.
I played for Coach Thurman in high school, and I think from Coach Thurman the major thing that I learned was that if boys play hard enough, you've always got a chance against anyone you play. But the first thing, you must have the effort, you must have the hustle, you must have individuals that are willing to sacrifice and willing to give of themselves. And to this day, if Spider Thurman told me to run through a brick wall, I'd line up and hit it till he told me to stop, because I think that highly of him. And then I went on to junior college at Lindsey Wilson Junior College, and I played for Coach Doug Hines. And I think Coach Doug Hines was just one of the brilliant tacticians at that particular time that ever performed. And I think from him, I just learned a lot of the tactical aspects of basketball. And I went on to Union College, and I played for Coach Herman Bush. And I must say that Coach Herman Bush is one of the most intelligent, thoughtful people, and just an absolute brilliant gentleman. So from each coach, I think I picked up things. Motivation from Coach Thurman, tactics from Coach Hines, and just hopefully I could never be the gentleman that Coach Bush is, but at least some of those traits that he taught.
Keith accepted a teaching position, the head baseball coaching job, and the assistant basketball coaching post under the direction of head coach Skylar Garrison at his alma mater, Clay County High School, in the fall of 1962. Bobby became the head basketball coach at Clay County in 1970. During the decade of the 70s, Clay County won 13th region titles in 1973, 74, 75, 76, and again in 1978 and 79. 3 times the Tigers won more than 30 games in a single season during the 70s. Clay County's 6 trips to the state tournament during the decade tied the Ashland Tomcats with the second most appearances at the Sweet 16, trailing only Owensboro, who amassed 8 during that same time frame. Incredibly, the 1980s proved to be even more successful for the Tigers than the previous decade. Coach Keith's mental, physical, and tactical approach to the game confirmed his basketball genius as he led the Clay County Tiger program to unprecedented heights.
Over the years, I've found out that if you really play the game the way that it should, if you go out and you believe that you can win, and if you take your good shots, shoot your 55%, keep your turnovers down to 8 or less, play good, strong defense, and you have all 5 people hitting the board after a rebound, you can play with anybody. It doesn't matter if they're better than you. We often tell our boys, on one given night, for one given game, for an hour and 15 minutes, you should be able to rise up and play with anybody in the nation for one hour. And if you can do that, we're in a position to win.
Clay County made 7 trips to the state tournament in the 1980s. The Tigers advanced to the finals in 1985, dropping a heartbreaking 65-64 one-point decision to Hopkinsville in the championship game. In 1986, Clay County lost to the eventual state champions from Pulaski County. Then in 1987, in front of a high school world record crowd of 24,000 fans, Coach Keith led his Tigers to a thrilling 76-73 overtime victory, defeating Scotty Davenport's Ballard Bruins in the state championship game in Lexington's Rupp Arena.
It was something in my mind that was very important for the people of Eastern Kentucky. A small bunch of kids went down there and became the giants of Kentucky basketball. But I think probably as much as anything else, that state championship brought back to the high schools of all of Eastern Kentucky, not just Clay County, all the way up to Pike County and down to the Tennessee border, the ideal that Eastern Kentucky teams could compete with anyone.
In 1988, Keith and Clay County met the Ballard Bruins in the Kentucky State Championship once again, having already defeated the Bruins once that year in the prestigious Louisville Invitational Tournament. The rematch was played at Freedom Hall in Louisville, and Ballard prevailed in this meeting, knocking off Clay County 88-79. Without question, the decade of the 80s belonged to Clay County. Point guard Richie Farmer was named Player of the Decade. Clay County High School was recognized as the Team of the Decade, and Coach Bobby Keith, earning Coach of the Year honors in 1987, 1988, and 1989, was voted Coach of the Decade. Coach Bobby Keith led the Tigers to the state semifinals in 1990 and then again in 1992. By the time of his retirement, at the conclusion of the 1999 season, his 18 appearances in the Sweet 16 were and still are more than any other coach in Kentucky history. Clay County advanced to the state tournament in 7 straight seasons with Keith at the helm from 1984 to 1990, a Kentucky state record. Clay County advanced to 5 Final Fours during the Bobby Keith years. And under Keith's direction, the Clay County Tigers won 129 consecutive home games, also a Kentucky record and a mark that still ranks second nationally. Bobby Keith won more than 30 games in a season 9 times. His overall record at Clay County of 771 and 124 sets his career winning percentage at over 86%, tops among all Kentucky high school basketball coaches. Bobby is a member of the WYMT Classic Hall of Fame, the Lindsey Wilson College Hall of Fame, and a member of the Union College Hall of Fame. In 1991, Bobby was inducted into the Dowahare's KHSAA Hall of Fame. In 2009, Keith entered the Kentucky Athletic Hall of Fame, and in 2012, he was selected into the inaugural class of the Kentucky High School Basketball Hall of Fame.
But the only time that an individual honor ever really touched me down to the bottom of my heart was when I was fortunate enough to be voted into the Dowahare's Kentucky High School Hall of Fame. And you're just an average guy from a dusty road in eastern Kentucky, and they set you there between Wawa Jones and Ralph Beard. I tell you what, to be honored with that class of people is the supreme honor of any high school coach. It just about leaves you speechless in that situation.
Bobby Keith passed away October 5th, 2016 at the age of 75. And yes, Bobby was honored and recognized for his many outstanding achievements over the course of his illustrious coaching career. And certainly we could go on, touting his celebrated awards and esteemed accolades. Yet undoubtedly for Bobby, his most prized possession on earth was his family. His wife Peggy, who was his most ardent supporter, confidant, and best friend for over 54 years. His son Fred Keith, his daughter Stephanie Keith Gregory, and his grandchildren Caitlin Gregory and Cameron Gregory were truly the pride and joy of his entire world. Ultimately, much of Coach Keith's Clay County formula for success stemmed from the love, the admiration, and the respect he engendered from his tirelessly supportive and knowledgeable coaching staff and his players. His boys were loyal. They revered their coach. Upon receiving a Coach Keith pregame pep talk, every player in that locker room was prepared and ready to run through a brick wall to secure victory for Coach Keith and Clay County. Oh, and the fans. In the waning minutes of a close game, Bobby would turn to the loyal Clay County faithful in the stands, raise his arms, and pump both fists in the air. The crowd's overwhelming response was certain to propel Bobby Keith's beloved Clay County Tigers to yet another victory. This has been Randy Mills with a Sports History Foundation flashback, remembering perhaps the greatest coach to ever roam the sidelines in Kentucky high school basketball history, the Clay County basketball coach, Bobby Keith.